Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. I hope you guys are doing well.
Hi, you guys. It's great to see you all again.
Hasn't been too long. I mean, we were live like I think 12 hours ago.
Yeah. Yeah, we were.
So, wow. I hope you guys don't get tired of us.
I know, right?
Nicole says, after a cold, does your immune system get stronger or is it a myth? Well, our bodies are meant to adapt to whatever, infects it. And so usually we end up overcoming whatever it is, unless it overcomes us. That which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. So that particular, virus or bacteria, you would have a boosted immune system towards, but not necessarily the whole immune system.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the same thing. Basically, your body overcomes it, so it gives you those little antibodies or immunities to fight off something similar.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're going to go into a lot of things. There's things I want to say that, I'm just so hesitant to say and cover. But, it's just, there's so much out there right now. And this feels like this is just the tip of the iceberg.
It does, and as we watch these things unfold, Michael put it exactly right a while ago. It's like a slow train wreck.
It is. It's a complete slow train wreck. And watching what's going on in China, has me very, very much wondering what's it going to be like in other, countries of the world if and when it hits here and around the globe like it is in China. There's so much going on, right now. And we just have to look up in the skies over our head any given day and wonder, what's that up there?
Exactly. We don't really know what's going on up there.
Yeah, so, let's start over here. And, here they're not showing much more from yesterday. As you're seeing, 67,178. And we know this means pretty much nothing. They're saying 8,582 total recovered and 1,527 total deaths. And we know that's, not accurate at all. The others category is at 285, Singapore 72, Hong Kong 56, Japan 43, Thailand 33, and South Korea 28. So those are the ones that are getting hit the hardest. It does seem to be picking up a lot of steam over in Singapore and Hong Kong. There's so much to talk about with this. So with that total recovered, here we see out of Taiwan news, Chinese doctors say Wuhan coronavirus reinfection is even deadlier. And that's scary because that's not typical as far as my understanding.
Right. No, it's not typical. So this is all just really, really weird stuff. We're looking at it this morning and the plot keeps thickening and thickening and thickening.
It does. And, we're always suspicious. And I think it's good to be suspicious. And when you're looking at what's happening in China, wow, it's just brutal. The brutality. And, Cindy and I, go back and forth on these things. And I say to her, do you think, this video is staged or that video is staged? And so, this would be one of the biggest staged events in history if it was the case. Would China lock down, a third of its population? I mean, that's probably about where we're at now. And have all this going on just to do what,
Well, I don't think it's the virus we need to worry about. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. Is there a virus? Maybe. There's people dying. Yeah, people are dying and people are starving to death now, and people are getting violent too. Let's jump. Where did I put this? I think right here. Okay, we talked about it yesterday briefly, and this is the actual PDF of a speech that was given, back in 2005. And it was from a military, the like top military commander of China at that time. And basically, he goes on in a speech to say that, it's inevitable that there's war with the U.S. It's inevitable. It's going to happen at some time. And they've run like simulations, and they lose half their population in that war. Now, they've also run simulations showing that if they unleashed something like a bioweapon on the United States, and then we would be soft enough to be invaded, you'd lose about 1 to 200 million Chinese. So I got a PDF of this. This is from the LibertyMan.com. And so, he's basically making the push, and he's saying we're not making aircraft carriers, we're making biological weapons, is what he's saying. And this apparently is real. It's not like bogus. So you got to wonder, as I said yesterday, was this something that they whoopsed, and of course we had reports that this was the stolen virus from Canada. Do we know for sure it's that exact stolen virus? Was that all? Is it all of this a setup? Is this all a setup, Yeah, the waters are muddy. There's an awful lot of evidence out there. This is, obviously a biological thing, but yet, this could also be what we see every day over our heads, triggered by certain frequencies. Because the one thing is, everybody's immune systems seem to be getting lowered, compromised. Is it part of a bigger plan? I think it is. I really do. I think it is a much, much bigger plan going on here.
Yeah, and I mean, media is silent on the 48th. Oh yeah, and media is silent on the 48-hour virus, Nicole. That's right. And Raven, the waters couldn't be muddier for me. I mean, it's so hard to discern, and all I know to do for sure is be cautious when I do go out, because I just don't think the virus is our main concern. I feel like they're using it to do multi levels of things to us. I mean, when we were watching some of the videos today, that was really hard to watch, you guys. It was really hard, difficult to walk through that and look at what's happening to these people and these animals. And I don't know if any of it's staged. Could all of it be staged? I've heard that China has a seriously strong lockdown on what can get in and out of their internet, and I know there is ways to block information from coming and going. How deep are they into that? I don't know, but I don't think all of it's staged. You don't just make a huge pit and like shove hundreds of pigs in it that are alive for a stage. I mean, I wouldn't think that you would go to that extreme. But then again, we have to look at the end goal. The end goal is complete control. We are starting to wake up as a species. The CIA knew this would happen back in the 70s and 80s. They wrote papers on it. And one of the ways was, through the sun, is how our DNA would start to awaken. We would become more intuitive. Kundalinis would start to activate, and we would become a little bit uncontrollable,
Yeah. So, I pay attention to like dreams, and, planning on doing now, and I'm going to stick with it, Cindy. I'm going to stick with it. I know I made a nice soup that's sitting there in the fridge. Came out really, really good, but I got to do a 3-day fast right now just to go and really get clear on what's coming. So sent you guys a little message. If you could decipher, I do feel my intuition is telling me that that's part of what's going on a big level, a global level. I don't think it's just a single country. So, we've all talked about the NWO, one world government, and you can see this as being perhaps that triggering event. So I'd encourage you guys to definitely look into that and check it out, because my intuition is telling me that's really what's going on here.
Yeah, there's some things we definitely need to watch out for, and we need to be careful how we talk because we want to be able to get information to you guys for as long as possible. We don't want to wake up one day and have the channel dead. We still have to make a living, and this is the best way that we can do it with where we're at, and it's that we can reach you guys, and that's really important. So we got to be a little cryptic every now and then.
Yeah, most definitely. And so, let's go through some of the other stuff that's coming along. So this is turning out to be, that sounds like a bioweapon, where when it comes back, the reinfection's even deadlier, even the second or the third time. Now, oh man, I was thinking of it last night. I'm going to try to dig it up. There was a video from about 3 or 4 years ago when this guy was talking about DARPA technology that is NANO and can be released. And when you look at what's happening, excuse me, to people with this, it seems very much symptomatically like what he was talking about. And I got to try to find it. I bet you anything that video is scrubbed and no longer around anymore. But, again, look up into the skies every day, So we see a Chinese patient dies in France from coronavirus. The first death in Europe, French officials say. So we have a first death outside of Asia. Now, I did not find any other info. That's why I put a little question mark after it. 6 coronavirus cases, but we don't know. It could be or might not be. This could be fake or it could be real, but just bring it to your attention and you guys decide. Breaking news, 6 coronavirus cases confirmed in Wilmington, and this is North Carolina, and that's one of my favorite places. If we were in normal times, if the world was wonderful, I'd probably have a house. If I was rich, I'd have a place in Wilmington, down in Sarasota, and maybe up in the mountains somewhere. I love Wilmington. Yeah, it's a great place. So they're saying that 5 Americans and 1 Chinese have tested positive for coronavirus in Wilmington, North Carolina. And supposedly, according to a statement, 5 people became ill after coming in contact with a Chinese colleague who was visiting from Shanghai and had recently been in Wuhan, obviously the epicenter. And authorities said the Chinese is still not showing symptoms of the virus despite being tested positive, and that's why border control did not notice. The 6 have been admitted to an undisclosed health facility and are staying in an isolation ward. So the link is there for you guys to check it out. It's out of cbtvn.com. And, we all have to just basically, do our due diligence, see if it rings true. If it doesn't, it might not be true. But then we might find out in 2 weeks, hey, now there's 15 cases, Alleged CDC text messages say over 1,000 infected in U.S. being deliberately concealed. And so this is what supposedly got blipped out there and was seen supposedly by accident. But it's making the rounds now. So U.S. mass media is reporting there's only 15 confirmed cases. And I was watching President Trump, was it yesterday or the day before? He was talking about, there's only about a dozen cases. We're doing really well. And he had talked to President Xi. It was like 2 days ago. And Xi is doing everything he can. Well, honestly, Xi looks like a monster in my eyes from what I'm seeing come out of China. And it's more than just the Gestapo-like tactics that the Chinese thugs. They don't even look like police. They just look like thugs. It's like, what'd you say? You said they look like the mafia.
It does. He looked like a mafia person that was angry, and the energy I was getting is that he was so angry and doing such a good job because somebody was threatening him and his family that he better do a good job. That's the underlying anger I got.
So, it's interesting to see all this. And the world on edge, 86% in a new global poll say coronavirus is a major threat. Major. And what do you guys feel in the chat room? Do you think it's a major? Sherry says actors. Well, I'm going to give you guys a bunch of videos to take a look at. I don't know. I've seen some amazing brutality, and one girl that, to me, honestly, it looked like like she's not around anymore. And I don't know. I don't think actors, Tom says. Supposedly there's very little in Mexico. And it's interesting because that Event 201 starts in South America. And South America is the epicenter. But that's been one of the areas that we've seen. I haven't seen, I think maybe, no, I don't even think there was one case that came out of South America yet. So it's interesting to see.
Well, if they're covering up cases to stop panic, then we're not going to, see anything coming out of anywhere. But this doesn't look like anything to me that is being done because of a flu virus. So that's why I know we're not getting the right story that's coming out of here. I don't know what's flu virus related and what's not. To me, this looks like somebody who's angry enough to throw all these things. I mean, that anger is coming from another direction. I can't explain what I'm feeling, but I know that this guy is sent here to do a job, and he knows he has to do a damn good job.
So what he's doing is destroying all the food that's apparently being sent to give to people in the buildings that are all now boarded in or welded in. And he's destroying the food. And if this was just one video, but it's not. When we think about what's going on, here you have a whole bunch of food. And you see the title right here. And, okay, so going back to that PDF with the general, the general basically said we either got to take over the U.S., and he actually said the U.S., Canada, and this is Chinese general, the U.S., Canada, and Australia have the land that could support the Chinese people, because in the long term they could not support the Chinese people in just China. So it was going to have to be that they would have to cull their own population or take over, take out the U.S. so they could take over the other countries and use their resources. Now, throw this into like what David Debine's been saying, for years now, talking about how in these times regimes fall, dynasties fall. China knows this. They have the best record of, what happens in a grand solar minimum. Though I think this is even bigger than a grand solar minimum. I think, what we're looking at is, that complete lockdown that so many have talked about forever with the NWO. And so, here they're destroying chickens and destroying food, and they've been destroying pigs. Why are they destroying all this? Why are they eliminating the food source that's supposed to be going to the people that are boarded up and welded in?
Right. So to me, this isn't virus related. They're doing something else here that we're not being told. So, I mean, what can we trust? What can't we trust? I'm just looking at everything, stepping back, trying to get centered, looking at it with discernment and with the ability to change my mind.
Norman says, what if the food is tainted? Yeah, that's a good possibility. It's a good possibility. Wouldn't you just try to sterilize it? Maybe, gosh, what would we do with that? Trying to think what hydrogen peroxide would probably work. You could do that in water, or just basically have gloves on. First do it in hydrogen peroxide or alcohol. Grab a little bit of the 190 proof grain, spray that on there, wash it off real good, and then chop just so you have the core. I mean, think about it. These people are starving to death in there. They're starting to starve to death. And, and there's signs that they're getting ready, Gary, as far as for lockdown here. Food grade diatomaceous earth. Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I took some of that, but we were taking it on a regular basis along with bentonite clay. Wouldn't be a bad idea to get that going again. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, looking at this destruction going on, of the food supply. And it's heartbreaking what we're seeing, with, this is ducks that they're culling ducks. And a lot of them died because nobody's feeding them now because everybody's on lockdown. And then they're bulldozing pigs. We already know half their pigs are dead, from the pig flu. And they're bulldozing pigs into huge pits and just covering them over. That's just atrocious. It's horrible. I've seen such a wanton disrespect for any form of life. To me, it feels very demonic.
It does. Reading these energetically now, it is. There's a different underlying type of anger or cynicism, if that's the right word. A very sinister energy going on here as I'm watching these now. It's a different kind of energy. So something has changed quite recently.
John Doe says Sun Tzu, The Art of War. It's crossed my mind too. I don't. Could this possibly be a setup? And then feign strength. When you're weak, feign weakness when you're strong. I've shared with you guys. I've had dreams my entire life, multiple times, about the U.S. being invaded and troops being here, and it basically being like a Red Dawn scenario. That's something I've had all my life. So, I'm always kind of suspicious towards that angle as well. And they were just bulldozing animals in, Amy. I mean, just bulldozing them live. The animals are alive, and they're just bulldozing them in and burying them alive.
Yeah, they're not giving the animals the courtesy of a quick death at all.
So yeah, it's really horrible what we're seeing going on over there, and the brutality is just it's just insane. Now, apparently, these CCP, a lot of these guys just go around dressed in black coats, and they know that's the Chinese Communist Party. And we're seeing such brutality with just random, just beating the crap out of people and leaving them kind of there, lying down there. I don't know if they're alive or dead, but, this is happening time and time and time again. Here you see, this is out of NTD News. This is a quote. I received a total of 127 corpses yesterday, cremated 116. Number of confirmed cases was 8. 48 suspected. This was one particular Wuhan funeral home staffer. So the intake has skyrocketed, as we know. And this is what they're doing to get food and water.
Yeah, and sorry, I didn't remember the name, but okay, Cindy Bohm. Yeah, does anyone realize how many Americans depend on daily medication? That alone is going to cause panic within 30 days. Yeah, I haven't seen anything on shortages when it comes to that, but that's why one of the things that we do on the channel, we do talk about alternative medicines, but you really, really, really need to be careful if you're on prescriptions, and if you have to go off of those, you need to wean off of them and talk to your doctor. I have to say that because I'm not a doctor. One of the things I did personally is it took a year for myself, and I got off of several prescription medications that I was on. I did. I took a year and I went off by crumbs because some of these will cause seizures. It can cause death. It can cause all kinds of problems. And then I went on to alternative homeopathic medicines. And then even if you do that, it's really bad to eat sugar, because if you eat sugar, it takes away the effect of those homeopathic medicines.
And, Todd says, can you become reinfected? Yeah, they're saying you could become reinfected and then perhaps get better. Although when you're reinfected, it's more severe. And then get reinfected again. And it seems like each time it's more severe. So this seems like a weapon. Most definitely it seems like a weapon. And, you see people are trying to adapt. Got to feel horrible for them. And got to wonder what's it going to be like in other parts of the world. As you see this again, this makeshift way of getting some water. Nothing is working over there, Everything's shut down pretty much. I'm not sure. I believe public utilities are still up for the most part, but, I don't know exactly, what's on and what's off where.
Right. Like, I don't know. What are they doing with those buckets? Are they lowering down pee? I don't know. It's horrible.
I don't know. So this is Harry Chen, and he says, with villages closed and roads blocked, not only has livestock starved, but farmers are forced to dump excess goods because they have no way to send it out. Meanwhile, cities starve. This is just incredible. This is, craziness as you see them just smashing. Yeah. What's the point?
See, there's more to this going on than a simple coronavirus. That's why I don't think that's the absolute focus. It's not so much the virus.
I don't know. This makes me think of the Anunnaki and Enlil, and humans are too much of a pain in the butt. But we had Raven on last night talking about the Anunnaki, and then talking about reptilians and the dark ones, what we call the archons. This is pure evil. To me it feels pure evil.
It is. And right now I think it's important to get settled in where we're at. And we have a good friend of ours who lives in an apartment, and everything that he eats he grows it himself in his apartment. So these are some things that I think would be important, is to start some plants, but make sure they're edible plants wherever you're at. Any little thing at this point will definitely help. Oh, thank you. Who's that, Chris? Give me a roar. Okay, roar. Roar, roar, roar. There, you got it. You got it, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Grizzly. Appreciate your support. And this is out of IntelliHub. Scores of fires burn throughout China, so high-rise buildings become human incinerators. And this is the other part of it. Residents in China are being cremated alive in their own homes. And the government is blaming arson, but who's doing it? I mean, I saw one video last night after we had done the live and everything. I didn't grab it. I apologize, guys. But to me, the guy looked just like the thugs that we're seeing going around beating up everybody that supposedly are CCP members. And he was just walking around starting fires randomly. And we're seeing a lot of these buildings with people in them on fire, and they can't get out. Mm-hmm. The only way to get out is to jump.
Right.
This is crazy. Mm-hmm. It's like pure evil, what we're seeing going on here. Pure evil. Carbon monoxide levels off the charts. Look at that. Government blames arson.
Look at this. Michelle says Kofi is a poison that is non-metallic iron that binds to living things, including plants. We'll look that up. That's interesting. Thank you, because we were dissecting that a few shows ago. And I mean, the stuff that they're doing to people is incredibly horrific. I don't know what to make of it, except for, I don't know if we send energy to these people. I know that seems like so little too late, but what do you do? We got to process information that we have coming into ourselves. We need to process it.
Yeah, and I thought there was something to that, and I didn't buy the Q interpretation of that. I think there's so many levels of misinformation going on. I think they recognize a lot of people that are 1 foot's out of the matrix. 1 foot's still in the matrix. 1 foot's out of the matrix. The foot that's out of the matrix does think there is an NWO. It believes that there's a banking cabal, and they're capable of horrible things. But the foot that's in still thinks, well, it's all the Democrats, or vice versa. But they're still believing that the parties are, one party's actually legit and the other one's not, when they're all, part of this bigger plan at the very top. There could be, like I said before, there could be individual representatives in the House of Representatives that are completely just doing what they think is right. But I think when you get to the Senate, it's a little bit less because a lot of them are more entrenched, and some of them are, ones that have been in there 20, 30 years. And some of them probably have higher clearance, security clearance than the president does because they're so deeply entrenched as well. President Carter wanted to, because he had seen a UFO, and so he wanted to get information about UFOs. And first Papa Bush, who was head of the CIA at that time, said, "No, you don't rate. You're not qualified to get the info that you want." And so that's kind of how the bottom line is. Although, even though Carter, was probably also part, more than likely, of everything that's going on, there's still like different layers to it.
I'll look this up on the Rocks 54. GMO food, they don't want it for New World Order. That makes some sense, as far as why are they destroying all the food. If it's GMO food, well, yeah, I mean, we wouldn't want that either, especially, as long as we have alternatives. I won't touch this stuff, but I'll look more into that. Do you have a link where you heard that? That's very, very interesting. Thank you.
Great point, Susan. Why are key media also members of the CFR? Yeah, and then, it's infiltrated most definitely in Hollywood and definitely in the media and obviously in politics. And then it goes into like the CDC and the FDA. Scott Gottlieb, you see him quoted a ton. When I look at him, I almost feel like I could see a reptilian overlay on him. Honestly, the energy coming off of this guy is not good. And he was the former head of the FDA, and of course now he's working for Big Pharma. These people go back and forth. It's just par for the course.
Yeah, Nicole says she just got a letter. What was that? Just got a letter from the Agriculture Department. They want to inspect your farm. That's really curious. If you don't mind sending me a picture of that letter and then keep me posted on that. That's super curious. Especially in light of what the other person just said about GMO food, them not wanting it. So yeah, keep me updated on that, Nicole.
And you guys could read what it says here. No food, no water, stormtroopers on the march. It sure does feel like that, and on a big par. I wonder what the numbers are going to be like. We've talked about the evil people that have walked this planet, from Hitler and Stalin and Mao and others, and many others, many, many, many others. We could add Constantine to that, as many people are not aware of his history either. There's just been, one after the other. Now we have had, for most of the Western world's had a very peaceful time. The last, since World War II. I mean, we had Vietnam and Korea, and then we've had these nonstop, never-ending wars on a smaller scale in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, and Libya's now going on, and it's a mess. But as we talked about before, war makes money, and war also is a way of just controlling things, controlling artifacts, controlling our past history, controlling so much. Now this is most definitely going to a different level. What we're seeing going on, more than a perfect storm. I don't understand. Well, they're different than we are. It's going to be different here. It is going to be different here when it comes here. I think it could be in some ways, I don't want to say worse, but in some ways it might be worse because, I don't see them doing that in some places where I've lived before, and people just going along like complete sheeps.
Well, one of the problems with us here is we're extremely spoiled. We have all of our creature comforts. We kind of get what we want when we want. So in that sense, if there's anything happening that were rules we have to abide by, or things we cannot get, doctors we cannot see because we're so conditioned to just enjoy everything at our leisure. Yeah, that could be disruptive in and of itself. I kind of feel like we're going to have to toughen up a little bit, get a little bit thicker skin, and just, prepare ourselves and our surroundings to be kind of isolated, and also there's other things that we can stock up on, different herbal medicines that just staples we should have in the house, like aluminum-free baking soda. There's a lot of staples we can have that are medicinal and we can eat.
So, he's talking about one of the advantages that China has, and we saw them put up a hospital in how many days? What was that? 6 days, 5-6 days. Well, yeah, they have leaks everywhere now, but regardless of that, but still they could get things done quick, and that's what he's talking about here. And again, this is going back to that Chinese defense minister's speech back in 2005. And I've researched it, and it does appear that this is really completely legitimate. Of course, it's one defense minister's speech, and even here in the U.S., we've had complete war hawks, and then we've had people that are more inclined to talk about things. But here he says, take response to war as an example. The reason the United States remains today is that they've never seen a war on its mainland. Once its enemies aim at the mainland, the enemies would have already reached Washington before its Congress finishes debating and authorizes the president to declare war. But for us, we don't waste time on trivial things. Well, I mean, our presidents haven't declared war and sent troops in. Curious, though, that we just had that War Powers Act come on right now. And it's interesting because he keeps talking about the Nazis and why the Nazis failed and why China won't fail. So, if you guys are so inclined, I would read into this because there's a lot going on. And so here he says, many years ago there was a book titled Yellow Catastrophes. It is said that due to our following the American style of consumption, our limited resources would no longer support the population, and society would collapse once the population reaches 1.3 billion. I think they're at 1.6 now, well, before everything that's happening now. So, and he gets into living space, Lebensraum, that the Nazis used as well. So, I wonder, there's something much, much bigger going on here. And here you see a parade of doctors and nurses for everyone to see. There's no shortage. Look at all the doctors and nurses out for everybody to see. They're waving high.
They treat these like animals. I mean, just out to parade for the cameras and stuff. These people are, oh my gosh, they're so sad.
And, here is people taking advantage of things as some people will.
And Grizzly Thank You says, don't forget the pets when you stock up. Remember the fur babies, of course.
Yes, we have 120 pounds right now of food just for Zeke. So, and Sassy, but Sassy eats so little. She does. And Zeke tries to finish hers. So, this is Harry Chen again. The brutality. Was it because the guy had his umbrella opened and it wasn't raining? Just boom, toss him to the ground. Whether people have masks on or not, they just seem to be getting brutalized. I mean, look how they're handling people. It's just horrible. I know that gets some people's blood boiling. It definitely gets mine going when you see this type of stuff. And this is a girl. They're doing this to a woman. Brave police of China are quick to act and help her back home to observe proper quarantine procedures.
Isn't that nice? Nice. They're helping her. I don't want that kind of help.
This is a girl they just did that to, a lady. That's just brutal and just so wrong. Now that they have her chained up and they're going to drag her back.
Oh, my. Tina Mobley. Wilmington. Oh, thank you so much, Tina, for one. And Wilmington is too close for comfort, 1 hour away. Yeah. Yeah. Wilmington, yeah. So, it's gonna, I think it's a little more widespread than we're being told. I think a lot of us are gonna be looking at that, having things like fairly somewhat close. So I think best process is just be vigilant when you go out and stuff.
Yeah, it's just horrible what we're seeing going on there. And so often, it's just one after another. So, U.S. State Department to evacuate 300 Americans off this cursed ship at last. And this is the Diamond Princess cruise ship. And here we see, as we had talked about, the first death outside Asia was an 80-year-old Chinese tourist that died in Paris. In another case of somebody being taken away to where and what, I don't know. Who knows? There's been so many people taken away.
Nicole says animals can get these viruses, or animals can get this virus. Can plants? I'm going to guess that plants can probably hold the virus on its leaves and stuff for a little while.
Yeah. They definitely are not nice to people, I mean, it's not like, it's not nice and civil. It just feels like completely brutality. Time and time again. Absolute brutality and just kind of a viciousness.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't think this is all about the virus. I don't think it's the virus that we need to fear, you guys. Of course, take precaution, but something more is going on here.
So here we see a U.S. citizen who arrived in Malaysia after disembarking in Cambodia from the MS Westerdam cruise ship has tested positive as well. So it says the Malaysian Health Ministry. And this shows 8 more COVID-19 infections confirmed in Tokyo as Japan sees a spate of domestic transmissions going on. And when we were looking at the other day, we were looking at the propensity for certain people to not do well with this virus because of the way it's apparently genetically designed. The Japanese people are very high on the list. So video from my mom, so this is Jordan, and this is out of Contagion Tracker, quoting it, who has been stuck on the Western Dam ship, of the Prime Minister of Cambodia greeting each of the passengers as they get off this ship and giving them flowers. And shaking their hands, too, and stuff. It's like, oh, my gosh.
What? I wouldn't do that. Why are they letting him do this? See, this is why I question things. That makes absolute no sense whatsoever. None. Zero.
Yeah, and we see President Xi says, hey, we're not policing things rough enough. We need more policing as the virus toll rises. Really?
It's redonkulous, It's just so weird. Like, what is going on? That makes no sense. One leader is shaking hands and off a ship that was supposed to be quarantined, and another one is saying, "Oh, we need more police." Go figure.
Yeah. So, wow. I didn't like the Chinese system. Now it's vile. And yet we still have to see how things are going to go down in other countries as well. Because this is just starting on the global stage. All right, so this is interesting. This is curious here. So you have the Pope with the 2 nice young kids right by him. They release doves, right, in the St. Peter's Square, right? They release doves, which, typifies peace, right? So they're getting handed doves here to let go of. And there you go. who is telling us what with this? They release the doves. Yeah. One gets eaten by a seagull. The other one gets attacked by a crow.
What kind of energy was rubbed off on those doves?
Well, yeah, I've talked about the legacy of the church, the Catholic Church, and those of you that looked into it know, the things that have gone on through the Catholic Church. So this, I don't know, this is pretty wild stuff, guys. This is wild stuff. So is this nature giving us a clue? Is this Mother, Gaia's children, saying, Right. Is this a harbinger of things to come? Because peace just got eaten.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think these poor doves got a bunch of nasty energy rubbed off on them.
I feel bad for the doves again. Just another tool. But it's just so freaking curious. That is crazy.
It is, and I don't think that seagulls are common predators of doves.
Yeah. And here we see the first shots are fired in China. Now, the population protests against the government. When are people going to say enough's enough? And so, what you see here is basically shooting up in the air. There is apparently, I'd say maybe half a dozen police there at the most. So what if you get a crowd of a couple hundred? When people are going to be, seeing other people starved out or incinerated alive in their apartment building, at some point they're going to wake up. And then, of course, you have people that are suspicious that this might all be a plot to overthrow the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, as well. But yeah, how long? How much time do we have until people have seen enough beatings, and whoever else is out on the streets, comes to somebody's aid?
These people are already so repressed to begin with. Imagine, and remember those, in this, by the way, the protests and stuff have stopped, isn't that weird timing? But before, we could see these people going up against other police, fighting them, throwing boards at them. And they're so repressed. And if they do that, you could imagine how angry they were. But now, the protests have stopped and this virus is here, all go figure.
Yeah. And so Excess Spray says it could just be a roundup genocide under the guise of a pandemic. And I think that's part of our suspicions as well. Mm-hmm. Most definitely, and as Doug says, they have no guns. But then again, when I looked at the numbers before, and U.S. citizens have more guns than the Chinese military does. So that's interesting. But then at the same time, I don't think that we should be calling for open violence. Although if I was over in China, I might be. Right. Looking at all that, I don't think there's any way I could stay still watching that happen. It just gets you riled up too much to watch them, manhandle young girls like that. And
well, it makes you wonder, I know we saw a thing where they're spraying people inside of some kind of a room. What are they spraying with them? Could they be spraying them with things like fluoride to help keep them calm?
Yeah, and Tammy's bringing up what we were seeing yesterday as well. Why? And did anybody do any research on that? Why were English words written on the Chinese back and arms of guys rounding up people? Exactly. One said SWAT and the other said police. I didn't get an explanation for it. I don't know if you guys looked into it at all, but boy, that's curious. And as I've shared with you guys, I've had dreams going back to being 19 years old and seeing a Red Dawn scenario here. I've always felt that that's going to happen. I don't wish it to happen, but it's haunted me. And, dreams, many, many times, and clear dreams too, the type of dreams that you wake up sweating from. The only thing I would say is I don't know if I've altered my own timeline, because in those dreams I was in the southeast, and now I'm out in the desert. So, it's one of those things. What's that? That butterfly effect.
Right. And it makes you wonder again, is that stage of why did they have to have it written in English? Was that something filmed here, or is it something they're preparing for?
Yeah, was that a CIA production? Is that what that is? And somebody asked, "What's Red Dawn?" That would be a Chinese invasion of the U.S. Which there's been rumors of that forever. And as I said right here, this is the Chinese defense minister who was in power in 2005. I don't know if he's still in power or not. I could look it up and see if we could find the bio on him. But in it, he says it's inevitable. And the only way to beat the U.S. is to have war there. But the first thing you have to do, he says, is attack them with a bioweapon to wipe out large chunks of the population. And so, a lot of things are coming together. You guys were saying that. Somebody in there was bringing up how things seem to be coming together right now. And there's some things that don't add up, but it could be disinfo. It could be trying to get us off track, or it could be a change in the script, as so much is really scripted and so much of this is really an act, even by, I believe, leaders of countries when you get down to it, because I do think there's puppet masters behind the puppet masters. And we've talked about this a million times, and this is Deagle, and Deagle's all about it's all about military hardware and combat aircraft, space systems, support aircraft, auxiliary vessels, fighting ships, armored vehicles. And this is what they cover. They have a forecast, and their forecast for the United States of America, when they did this forecast, it was 2017. The U.S. had 327 million. Their forecast says, due to economic situations, is when they were pressed about this, they said it was due to economic situations, and it just shows the population leaving. Okay. Because their forecast for 2025 is the U.S. to have a population of 100 million people. And right now we have about 331 million people, I think, at the moment. So where did 231 million people go?
Exactly. So as far as scripting goes, a lot of this is like they have certain changes that they can make without changing the overall goal. So when we have a leader, or when a leader is put into office, I don't think things are done that much different. I think things are just altered a little bit. So the end goal is always the same. But things, just like a script with any movie, they pick out the end goal and then you arrange the pieces in there up until that end goal is reached. So maybe they just altered a few things, but the end goal is all about control. And that's just a really sad thing to watch, but what can we do from here? It's like you have to go within. You need to go within and you need to get your center. Find your grounding. Don't panic. Oh my gosh, Susan Donahue, Michael and Cindy, so grateful for you and our EE family, Susan. And you guys, we are super grateful for you too. We appreciate it so much. But yeah, that's my take on it, is anything in between now and the end goal can be altered.
So, I've done, I think, 5 videos on this, and I went through every single country, right? And there's 7 pages. There's like 176 countries or so. I went through every single country, and I was like putting them in this column in a spreadsheet, put them in that column. And it turned out that the major population losses were all in either NATO countries or U.S. allied countries. And so, it gets me wondering, okay, were they forecasting a war? Is that what they were forecasting? Because, China and Russia didn't lose anybody. Now, is China's population going to really be the same now? So here you see population 2017, 1.4 billion, population 2025, 1.4 billion. But look at the military spending, goes from 226 billion up to 310 billion. And when you look at Russia, where is Russia? Over here. You see the population stays the same, 142 million. The military budget goes from 79 billion up to 186 billion, so it doubles. So, again, was this supposed to be a bio attack on the U.S. that went wrong and China screwed up and now they have to cull their own population? Or is this still part of a bigger plan?
Oh, Zeke, thank you so much. Second try, newbies like me, I would love a list. Top 10 only, supplements like silver, echinacea, etc. Only have a few days or weeks. Need to know now. We'll order same day. I get must-haves. I know, hard to pick just 10. Yeah, it's hard to pick just 10. But colloidal silver would be at the top of my list. But yeah, we'll go through that.
Yeah, definitely. And that would be a good thing to do for another video. Mm-hmm. Maybe we could put something together for today later on. So, there's a big plan going, as Nicole says, wormwood. I'm drinking water with wormwood in it right now, and I do that every morning. I kind of like it. It's, it's kind of grows on you.
Yeah, it grows on you like mold.
Yeah. So, that, and I was gargling with some silver water earlier today, and you gotta do what you can, because most definitely we are being hit hard, guys. Mm-hmm. Nuclear quantum lasers in the house, hey bro, and we're being hit hard. There's this, when I look at this Chinese defense minister's speech and I look at Deagle, so then there's also the line of thought, as we've said, that the banking cabal behind all this wanted to shift power to China because China has the perfect system in place to control people, as we see. And so that to me makes a lot of sense. And maybe the banking cabal was going to toast the U.S. and there's forces in the military industrial complex that are trying to keep things status quo. Who knows? It's all conjecture. We don't really know, but we know things are messed up. And we know people, humanity, animals, birds, fish, everything on the planet itself is just being attacked viciously.
It is, and they don't really like Mother Earth. They don't like anything motherly. They don't like the mother energy. They don't like the divine feminine. And if you create things, they're going to try to destroy your creative ability. And that's where our education system comes in my humble opinion. They start destroying people's creativity right away as soon as possible by telling them, you got to color in the lines, and you got to do this, and you have to do things this certain way, and da 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 da. The Native Americans were really awesome when they stood back and they watched a child and watched their strengths, and then they would build upon those strengths. They made warriors, and now they crush us from the start. So to learn anything new, you have to unlearn everything you thought you knew. Then you're able to learn new things.
And so here we see Trump administration to deploy elite border patrol agents to sanctuary cities, including Chicago and New York. And so this is from February 14th, guys. U.S. Border Patrol. Specially trained officers being sent to cities to boost the enforcement power of local immigration and customs enforcement officers, according to two officials who are familiar with the secret operation. Additional agents are expected to be sent to New York, San Francisco, LA, Atlanta, Houston, Boston, New Orleans, Detroit, Newark. This, and then we were talking about elite troops, yesterday. Are these, being sent to the border? It feels like assets are being put in place to me. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, it does. It could very well be. But, a lot of this too, a lot of things they do at wartime is they throw everything out there to confuse, send you on a different direction, send you down a different rabbit hole, distract, delusions, and that's where we got to keep going back to center, have to keep going back to self, going within. That's where we start from. And while we watch this unfold and we report on it, we spend a certain number of hours, gathering the information and then disseminating it with you guys. And then you guys give us information to follow up on too, which is great. But then at some point we have to unplug, just completely unplug. That's the best thing we can do.
Yeah, all the links are there. They're all going to be there, and they're there right now. So you can see that one's from the Chicago Tribune. So, that's what you're looking at right here. That's the link for that article. Yeah, to me, it feels like they're pre-positioning things. They have elite. I always felt that the wall was not about necessarily just keeping people from getting into the country, but also keeping people from getting out. And it feels like we're all going to be on lockdown at some point where, you're not going to be able to travel over any border freely. Maybe you won't even be able to leave your own city freely. Look at China. What's going on over there? It's very, very disconcerting. As Ricky says, it's getting real quick.
Yeah, it is. It is. But right now, we're just really super fortunate. We can still come on here, and we will be able to come on here for quite a while too.
Well, we hope so.
We will. I'm programming it now. We will. We will be on here for quite a while. I'm not going to program anything but that. So, and come on and get with you guys and exchange information and let you know what's going on. And, likewise, if you guys have anything to share, share it in the chat or shoot us an email so we can look it up.
Yeah, that other dream I had, and I remember sharing it with Cindy, when was that, about 6 months ago? I remember saying to you, I can't believe there's going to be foreign troops in the U.S. because the UN was coming to patrol or help with a situation. There was going to be UN troops on the grounds. And I remember saying to you, I can't believe that there's, foreign troops that are going to be on the country's soil tomorrow because they were en route. And I think it was almost like a token force. It's almost like I could see pictures from like a newspaper article, showing the soldiers up in the air coming with the little blue helmets. And of course we've seen convoys of that, from time to time show up, and unusual troop movement, and what happened up there in, was it Colorado or Utah, where they were barring U.S. citizens from going into a certain area. It was UN troops that were actually stopping U.S. citizens from going into a particular area up there. So we'll see what's going to happen. But yeah, it definitely feels pretty ominous right now. So again, be ready to hunker down. Mm-hmm. I think hunkering in is pretty good. Yeah. Pete Penn says, come camp in Canada. The borders are wide open. Yeah, the thought has been there, and we're looking at land, and we've, I had a lot of dreams that I can't quite remember last night. And I'm trying to sort through them because we've been just about ready to pull the trigger on some land here and waiting to hear back on it. But then there's still that feeling, and I had the urge a long time ago, a little voice saying you're much better off outside of the country. But we'll see. Time will tell, guys.
Time will tell. We'll just sit and watch and wait and see what happens. But thanks for joining us again. We love you guys.
And thank you guys so much for all the support, both here on Patreon and Kofi. You guys definitely keep us going. And we look forward to doing this again. Just take your preparations to all new levels. And I've been saying that lately because I feel that I think a lot of people are still going to be surprised at how quickly things are going to move when they do really start to unfurl here, and whether or not it really is, this virus spreading like crazy, or whether there's something else going on. It does feel that things are going to move really fast. That's the feeling I have.
God bless and namaste.